Hi, I'm Micah.
Hey, I'm Christa.
Welcome to Bad People. This is a podcast that seeks to create a safe place to wrestle with life's deeply personal questions. Our aim is to be honest with ourselves, first and foremost, to confess where necessary and throw stones at our own glass houses, examining experiences with curiosity and vulnerability. These conversations are not an attempt to provide answers or offer simple platitudes. Rather, our goal is to hold open-ended dialogue around what simply is and do so from a level playing field without fear of judgment or shame. Join Christa and I at your own risk as we excavate the ways belief, community, trauma, and relationship has impacted who we both are today.
Thanks, Micah. So today's episode, finally I'm going to get it right, because I swear in the last episodes I've said they're called something and then we call them something totally different.
Yeah, that's not always matched. You get the gist though.
So, just bear with us. Yes, today we're calling this Love Actually. So our topic is about love.
Yeah.
And I'm going to throw a red
big topic.
Yes. So my first question, do you love yourself?
That is a good question. I think I do.
Yeah.
Right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
Tell me,
I can say that I do.
Yeah. Tell me why.
Well, I think I feel free.
Yeah. Okay.
And I feel free to just fully be who I am. And I definitely have times where I'm self-critical or self-shaming.
Yep.
And I'm like, I could have done better there, or but overall I think I feel, sorry, my phone's going off. I just feel the most free, I think, that I've ever felt in terms of, being myself and feeling free to be myself. And I don't know. I think I accept myself too, which is maybe part of love for me, loving myself, just accepting that I am who I am. And I don't know. I love myself.
That's so nice to hear. It's funny that. Yeah, it's where it's supposed to start. I mean, if I guess
self-love. Yeah,
totally. It's so silly that we're, self-proclaimed deconstructionalists, because that's terrible.
I don't know.
Whatever.
I don't know what we are.
Exactly. That's true. Who knows what we are? But in the sense that if we went back to the Bible, because we do that every time.
We do.
Yeah.
It's very magnetic.
Yes. Just that idea.
Before we get there though, I want to know if you love yourself. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I'm learning to.
Yeah. I love that.
I think it's the only way that I'm learning to do that is, again, we like to say, just to accept things as they are and to not force them to be something that they aren't.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing for me. Yeah. And then, because that was, has been a theme. I think I've said that a bunch. Who I am just as me has not really been accepted. And I've always had to aspire to be something either better than I truly am, or different, or change what really is.
Yeah.
And so I think,
would you say that, sorry to interrupt you,
of course,
but I'm just curious, would you say that you've kind of always had a sense of who you are?
It's funny because when I think back to earlier memories, and I'm there was this little niggling of I love I like myself. I love who I am. And then something would happen and it's oh no, that's bad. Or even make me question maybe I am unlovable, or maybe something is wrong with me.
Yeah.
And so that constant kind of
doubt.
Totally. I couldn't reconcile this deep feeling of wanting to love myself, or kind of feeling I accepted myself, but then always sort of feeling this criticism, or I shouldn't actually be confident in who I am.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and it's nice to sort of learn.
It's weird how it almost kind of comes with guilt that but I should I?
Yeah.
The default is to self-criticize and self-condemn.
Yes. But, or even when you hear that from other people, I think that's been interesting to kind of look back and say like, oh, was I around people that modeled like self-love, self-acceptance, or was there a lot of shame for them as well, which is sad that, a lot of us feel like we shouldn't be the way that we are. And oh no, if we were only this way, we would be more accepted, or we would, have more peace, or maybe we wouldn't face rejection or whatever else. And I think that in those early moments, I was like, no, like rejection just happens, and it wasn't anything that I've done or because of me, but then somehow that changed all the time. So, I don't know. So, learning too. But freedom, oh my goodness. It's a huge thing to just go, this is who I am. And whether I change or not, I'm still, can I love myself as I am?
Yeah. And if you change, love those changes.
And then there's something that they have to be there for a reason. Too, maybe, hopefully. I don't know.
What's something that is typically, I know it's going off a little.
No, I love it. Yeah.
What's something that's like typically uniquely Christa?
That I would say, the people that were closest to me, that I don't really do anything kind of the way other people do. Like I seem to think differently about certain things, or try different things. Maybe that's like the creative brain that wants to take risks and go like, I don't
love that.
Yeah, it's funny because like I say that I don't care what people think. Or that I'm okay to try things that haven't been tried before. But of course, then there's the crippling like, oh, I'm supposed to care what people think because that's how it keeps me safe. So it's been interesting to kind of embrace that more. How about you?
That's cool.
For you?
I don't know. No, I think, well, I mean, just funny, silly things. Like, I hate being in a rush. I hate being rushed and feeling rushed. Like, gotta like, I just love like being able to think things through, take my time, do things like slowly and methodically.
The ecclesiastical girl, like there is a time for everything. And it's
like I'm a bit philosophical in that way, and I think I've always been like that, like a thinker, and love to think about things. And I am creative, which I have always been creative, like whether it's painting or singing or writing. And for a long time I tried to kind of like minimize that as well, and to just like one form of creativity or one thing that I'm like, this is me. But accepting that like, no, I just love creativity in general. And I'm up for like dabbling in all sorts of stuff.
Hence why you're on this podcast.
But like, like when it comes to like monetizing and like making career out of something, I've always found that really hard, because I'm like, but I like songwriting, but I also like drawing and painting, and then I also love writing and like cooking, and like just, I don't know. It's been hard to kind of like integrate all those things and be like, it's okay to be able to do like different things and just do them because you enjoy them, not because like you've gotta or you've gotta like, I don't know, be something,
like with like our kind of need for a label or identity or whatever, right? Like, yes, I am Micah, this one specific thing. Like, no, I'm
like slim it down, and I am a complex being with lots of different interests and things.
I hope that's making like our listeners think about the things that are inherently them, and how, I mean, yes, today hopefully the call first is to like be curious about yourself, and to like really just allow those things to be, and to find like that gentleness and that that love for ourselves, and again that curiosity to kind of go like, oh, look at like that is exactly who I am, and why am I like that? And I do like that. That reminds me of that Zoe Saldana thing again we talked about a while ago, like
love her mistake.
And the way she learns and like the outcomes, and just because like that is all a practice in who exercising like who she is. She does things a very specific and certain way, and I'm like, ooh, I like that. wanted to lean into that more.
Yeah. And I think that's because like you can't really love yourself if you don't even know who you are. So even the process of loving yourself is just even beginning to think about yourself.
Totally.
What do I like? Who am I like?
And to not be afraid. I mean, now it's making me think about
yes, back to the Bible
again, but perfect love casts out all fears that I'm thinking about. And it's like not to be afraid to kind of like uncover those things that are also ugly. I mean, I was telling you earlier, I had a discussion with one of our listeners. Hi, Shauna.
Thanks for listening.
Yes, 100%. We're so grateful. And she was just like, I was kind of lamenting of like, just different things. I don't love some of the brokenness that's shown up in my life. And yet, I mean, I don't love that I've struggled to have feelings towards a married person. Like, that sucks. That is definitely not something that I am proud of or that I want to lean into or anything like that. And she said something that just made me think, which was like, but maybe that's like who you are. And I'm like, okay, great. I don't want to be defined by those things. But then I also don't want to be afraid of that. Because sometimes, like we said, like the thing that we fear the most, we kind of like run away from, but then we can become that thing even more. If we're not like curious about why these things like pop up or totally, those black and white boundaries that for most people that wouldn't have ever been a thing for them. Yeah. Was that a thing for me? Yeah. Again, to go like, is that family history? I did hear a funny thing about, I mean, this happened to be like why people cheat, but it's like these things that exist possibly in our DNA, I look back and go, oh yeah, I mean, that was very prevalent in my family line and possibly like, are those things just inherently a part of me? And how do I become friends with them? How do I love them? And then if I don't want to, continue to become that and then also perpetuate that in my family line, how do I embrace, but then also go, I want to actively make choices that are different, right? But still accept myself and love myself for those things. Yeah.
Be like a cycle.
Yeah. I mean, like the things that we're doing, I just learned as like transitional characters, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But I think that only happens through like love and acceptance of like, this is the story I've been a part of. Yeah. Here's the whole thing. Yeah. Let's not be afraid to look at all of it. Yeah. And out of love for oneself and other people to go, okay, well, let's see if we want to keep writing the same story.
Yeah. That's interesting because I feel like anxiety, not to harp on about that, but that taught me that like, just like running away from the fear and the fears actually just keeps like perpetuating the fear and keeps allowing it to sort of control you in a way. But like learning for myself, learning to face them, whether that's like writing it out in a journal, like this is what I'm afraid of right now. Yeah. And just like writing it down and like looking at it.
Totally.
Facing it in a way. And coming face to face with it is actually kind of what for me has taken the power out of it of like, oh yeah, like it's normal to have fear and but sort of like voicing it and accepting that it's there and like facing it has, I don't know, enabled me to, move on from it and then not feel like so burdened or controlled by it because it's like, I don't know.
You can kind of see it for what it is more. Like, I think of, I don't know, that's just reminding me of a child that is exhibiting like, I don't know why this is like the mental picture, but like anxiety seems like a bit like chaos of the mind, right? Yeah. Where it's like, there's not like this rational thought and there's like, it's like, oh, everything's the worst. And you look at a child that's like maybe experiencing pain or doesn't understand something or just wants something a certain way. And it's like this tantrum or whatever. And then as somebody that's trying to be loving towards that child, it's like they walk towards it. They, maybe have the space in their mind to like, in the best sense, like if we're at our best, in our best selves, we can, kind of go like, okay, be curious and like accept them in whatever they're experiencing, their state, them down from that and help them to see things more clearly. Yeah. And that's, yeah, that's a lovely way to go about life. We do that to ourselves.
For sure. And I mean, it can be harder to do that to yourself. It is nice to have someone to guide you through that.
Yeah.
But I think, that's our charge for as adults is like, learning how to do that for ourselves.
Totally. Because I mean, so often I do that. I mean, well, we've also kind of been taught that, where it's like the loving thing sometimes has been told to us to go like, I have to change that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Like, why am I thinking these things? Like, how dare I think more of myself than somebody else? And it's like the shame-based talk.
Yeah.
And how that doesn't actually help to evoke change. It just like makes us turtle, and it makes us like squash that thing down instead of like try to like bring it forward and kind of deal with the root of the issue.
Yeah. That's good image, a turtle. Don't turtle. Should get that tattooed on you. Yes, you should. You're turtling. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I think talking about the children thing is like, I feel like now a lot of my gauge for what love is and isn't is like parenting has taught me more of that. Because I mean, like, I think we all have ideals of love, right? Of like, it's the universal romantic notion, like love and unconditional love and like loving people. But the reality of what that looks like in our lives and in the like very hard dealings we have sometimes with other humans, like it's actually not just apparent how to love someone or what love should be. It's all this like figuring out and like trial and error and like is it just unconditional acceptance where you accept people without, I don't know, any
instruction
or back and forth or like just loving people regardless? Or does being loving towards someone involve like being able to tell the truth? And I mean, in that instance, I think of my kids, and I know that if I just let them do anything, it would not go well. And my house would be
texts from Micah these days. She's in the thick of it with her boys.
Yeah,
like
they're boundary testing age.
Totally, and you actually have to go. Here is the boundary.
Yeah. And in a sense, like, although that testing drives me insane and is very hard to like stay patient in that, I think they also hopefully feel like they can test because they are in like a safe environment. So they're testing like, okay, so what's the boundary? And I do like how, I mean, I don't like, but I'm observing how that's just a natural human thing, is this like testing the boundaries.
Totally.
What are the boundaries of myself? And like, what are my limits?
And if I really do this thing that mom has said not to do, will the bad thing happen? Like, will...
Totally. What will the consequences be?
Isn't that a really interesting, like, again, making me think back to the garden or whatever, like where you kind of maybe know it's not I mean, this is whatever, not related to that, but where, I'll take for my kid, where my kid might know, like, hitting his brother is like not a great idea. Doesn't treat him the way he wants to be treated, but like, well, I'm going to test that because that's what I feel like in this moment. I'm going to, and it doesn't gets me a momentary satisfaction of like relief. Right? Which relief sometimes is super valid. But and it, the onset of that is, well, you're going to get hit back. Probably. And then that's no fun.
No, which is like my challenge with the boys, because they're in that stage of like, they're very impulsive. So if someone gets hurt, the instant impulse and reflex is to like hurt back.
Totally.
And to sort of teach them the delayed gratification. Grant and I chat about this all the time with like, that is going to, be satisfying in the moment to hit back. But then your brother is hurt and you've kind of caused some damage, in your relationship.
The way things work, you're probably going to get hit back because that's how energetic like interactions work.
It's right. It's a perpetuating cycle. So in some cases, I'm like, I honestly feel like yeah, I mean, they've gotten to the point where I'm giving them warnings and they're fighting, and then and then sometimes it's like, well, I'm just gonna let this play out, because
they got to learn.
They're both gonna end up hurt and sad, and then we can actually have conversation about, like, was that
worth it?
Was that helpful? Yeah, was that worth it for you both to be hurt and sad? And like, there's a better way. There's a better way, like the way of love, which is so hard though.
Totally. And treating somebody the way you want to be treated.
Yeah. Which is, that I think is still the hardest, even for us adults. Like, if someone's hurt you and the impulse is to, have some revenge or have some retaliation, or like to cause them the hurt that you felt, like not doing that and extending grace, but it's just hard, because like hurting us is complicated. And like, if someone does hurt you, like, it's like, well, that depends on the hurt. Like, was someone purposefully abusing you, or was it like, an ignorant kind of thing that they were not aware of and it hurt you? Like, or what are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's funny because, like love, I think defining what love is, because for some people, they are experiencing somebody saying, but I love you so much. But love doesn't feel like love. It feels like hurt.
Yeah.
It feels like pain. And you're like, this just it's incongruent, because the words that you're saying demonstrate that you do love me.
You're saying you love me.
Totally. Yeah. And this happens in friendships. I mean, it happens within like a church system too, which is interesting. And we were talking about that this morning, why we're like, well, we were proclaim that like God is love and like the church should be loving, and then the byproduct or the outcome of like these gatherings sometimes are very unloving.
Yeah, or just feels more legalistic.
Yeah, and like because to love somebody you speak truth to them. Yeah, and is the relationship, is there true like knowing of that person? Is first acceptance, and then like actually are you empowering them to make change in their own life, or are you just forcing them to change based on what you think is right?
Yeah, and at face value.
It has nothing to do with like where they're at or their experience or any empathy towards how maybe that change is not what's best for them. Right? So all of that to say is like
that like just speak the truth in love, which is quoted a lot.
Which so like, what does that look like? And maybe again, once is it like, or to begin with, is it first like being just honest and true about our own experience and go, okay, this is how brokenness shows up here, and this is how I'm choosing to love myself and to not gaslight myself into like, immediate change just so that I please someone else, or I don't know, like bypass something. But again, that acceptance, but all that again to go like, what is love? Like you said, I've learned freedom, acceptance, and like to not try and control myself. So like that rigidity or whatever of thought. And that curiosity, the patience, right? Like that takes a lot of time to like truly love oneself.
Which is what I was going to say before. Like you were just mentioning that you're learning to love yourself. And I mean, like I'm 34 years of age. And it's taken me, it's a journey like to kind of know yourself and love yourself.
For a lot of people, like, love, I think that's so incredible. Like even when you start a new friendship with somebody or a relationship with somebody, is like, what does love look like to you? That's a great first question to ask somebody, because sometimes that's like, well, I mean, think of the 5 love languages.
I was just going to say, like, I feel like that's where that book came from, is like, it is contextual.
Totally.
There's not like sort of I mean, it's interesting because we get that bar from scripture. If you're in a Christian context, the like Corinthians 12 or 13, the love passage. Which is, spouted and spoken at weddings so often, but that's often our like written reference for what love is. But then the outworking of that is different. Well, also just like but what does that mean? Or like
and
we're asking questions of it, like, and in the context of these individual relationships, like you're saying.
Well, yeah. And if the person you're engaging with, for one, loves themselves or doesn't love themselves, like that would be an interesting dynamic. And then also, or the system or whatever, however they understand love will be interesting.
Yeah.
And then to go, is this a transactional thing? Because like you think of some of those love languages and it's like gifts or acts of service. But if it's like you only dole out those things knowing that you also have needs, and so the expectation is that you also will get something back, like that's really tricky. Because I think some people love in a very trusting way where they're like, no, I love you, therefore I'm going to, do this act of service completely selflessly, because they're like, no, this is how you want to be loved and it's good for you, and your hope is that you receive that back, because that's like a good balance of relationship. But when you don't, or when that's sort of like used a little bit like tit for tat kind of thing, like that's where things get really tricky. Because then to have transactional love, I would say is not a great thing.
Or manipulated love.
Yeah.
But I love that. I think that we're kind of getting at this with the 5 love languages and things. Like, again, I think about my boys and knowing one of them like loves physical touch and needs that like closeness and physical, being held and being reassured that way. And the other one, not so much physical touch, but maybe like with quality time and like interest in what he's like. Love requires us to get to know truly someone and like genuinely and not with any kind of, in order for us to love them well, we kind of have to get to know them
with no agenda, just totally. And again, accept them like completely as they are, like with the tendencies to like, I don't know, hit their brother or whatever. You're like, right? Rather you didn't, because that hurts my other child or whatever, right? But it's like the same thing goes for us. Like, I think I was just saying to you, like that's been an interesting experience for me recently, is to interact with different kinds of people and to say like, oh, I really love the exercise in accepting people for exactly like where they're at. So respecting them enough to go, like, if they chose something for a certain reason, it's because like they're wise enough in their own mind and they've, based on their life experience, are the way they are. And I should never think that I need to change that person. I'm going to interact with it because it's like it's like there's good boundaries between the two of us. There's mutuality or something like that. But like where I don't know. It's just, it's a different place.
I think it's like, because we're never going to get over that human thing of like those just flash judgments we make of people, and like, the things that trigger us to be in our minds if we're interacting with someone, be like, oh, that's unhealthy, or like in my mind that's unhealthy, or
do it that
I wouldn't do it that way. But instead of like allowing that to become like a wall, or I think for what I've been learning about, like accepting people as they are is more just getting really curious, like, oh, why did you, because often that's the getting to know, like yes, they've come to this conclusion or this approach or this perspective based on so many factors. So now as a complex human myself, I'm like, how did you come to that conclusion? Or like just getting curious about the things maybe that rub you the wrong way or irk you, or like,
I know, because like those things are on us. Like that I saw, I don't know if I mentioned last time that I kept seeing, like I would get angry at a very specific one friend. I think I did say this. And I'm like, why am I like, that is on me. Like any sort of trigger that's like arising in me, like she is just participating in life the way, like this is the conclusion that she's drawn, that she loves, again, to participate in church and to be a part of Bible study because it's edifying for her and she sees so much life in that. What is that doing in me? And why am I like spewing this out? Because that's a me problem. It's not a her thing. And why do I feel like I need to convince or anything? And like, again, this is why for me right now, this podcast is great, because this is where I can discuss those things. Where, like maybe I don't have conversations in certain aspects, but like there is a release to the things that I'd like to talk about in a different place. And where there's like, I don't need to have an agenda or to convince somebody that I love and care about. They can just exist.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that feels a lot more loving than, me like, I don't know, showing up in a way that is not honoring to them.
Yeah. Like, it's figuring out how to love others. Yeah. It's nitty gritty. And that makes me think too of, like, you were saying how like that's on me, that trigger, like,
Yes.
and that makes me think as well of like, almost that onus being on us too. If you love yourself and respect yourself, you're also going to have boundaries with people that don't want to treat you the way that that you need to be treated. Like, that's it. Like, not to keep bringing it back to my sons, but like one of my sons is very physical too. With like, he's learning to like, he needs navigate that.
It's his energy.
Yes, but he'll often, he'll often hit me too. And I'm like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Buddy, you can't hit me. I'm not going to let you hit me because like, I do not like to be treated that way. Yeah. And that's not how we treat each other in our family. Like, it happens, but our goal is to not communicate that way. Yeah. Our goal is to like, and he's learning that, but it's a process. Totally. And it's a like, but if I just am going to let him hit me all the time, like.
It's so interesting, hey, because adults, like, we also interact like this, where it's like, okay, you have this bend, like, to need to release energy in this way that's towards me physically. Like this, I mean, that's not an adult, it's a little child, but okay, so you can't do that to me. I don't want to absorb that. You go and hit this punching bag or go run outside. That's how you can release said energy.
Totally.
Not at me. Yeah. But with adults, how that works is like, okay, maybe you have an addiction, or maybe you need to yell, or maybe you need to be heard or to act out in a certain way. Yeah. That I can't absorb that. Yeah. So I'm going to remove myself and be loving towards myself, because that's my number one responsibility. Yeah. It's not to take on, like, that's not loving, is to compromise myself and take on whatever this stuff is out of love for you. No. I'm going to say no. Yeah. And then you can, and I'm going to accept that you need to go and do whatever you need to do. But that needs to be away from me. And sometimes that looks like, you guys can like navigate that and have a healthy relationship. Or sometimes that looks like, actually, this relationship is just not healthy for both of us. Yeah. Right. And it is most loving to stop engaging. Yeah. This is not congruent with like, what we both need. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is like, I think that's with kids, like they are, if I was to let them do whatever they wanted, and my love for them meant, just treat me however you want, and like do whatever your little impulses are leading you to do. I know that will lead them into like self-destruction. Totally. And if you really love someone, I think you don't want to see people destroy themselves. And so like, that's brought about in parenting, where that's kind of like our responsibility to try to make sure our kids don't self-destruct. Totally. But they don't understand that in the moment. Like, they kind of don't see the bigger picture of like, well, I'm going to need delayed gratification in life as a life skill for my flourishing. Yeah. Like, and so, of course they would rather like have the candy when they want it and do all the things when they, when they feel, but like, loving them is seeing that that I want them to be able to flourish in life. And I don't know, just acting on impulses whenever they arise is not, often leads to kind of self-destructive things. I don't know.
Definitely.
But
well, and it doesn't allow for that space of like, you're just, that's that primalistic kind of like animal brain or whatever that kind of kicks in to go like, and it's funny because in that one podcast I think we've talked about, it's called Bima, I think, and but it talks about like how God differentiates us between us like humans and like the beasts that walk the earth or whatever, and saying like you have self-control, like you are able to name these things, you like there is a difference here. And that's what makes us different.
Yeah.
That we can control our impulses, right? And of course, sometimes we can't because
we have the ability to.
Totally. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And depending on, the trauma even that you see rage come out in people, which is like a beastly kind of characteristic. And you're like, okay, but why?
Yeah.
Maybe there was like some trauma that just, gets pent up and stored, and then that's the release. But it doesn't mean, so I can be loving and go, okay, I accept that in you, but I actually can't participate, right? I need distance, and it's not healthy for you to keep acting like that, or for me to absorb that. That interaction, that exchange of energy actually sometimes is like, just erodes people. I don't believe we're supposed to act like that.
Yeah. Well, like you can't be someone's punching bag. Like you'll end up black and blue.
Totally.
Like,
whether you look like it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. All those sort of like the energetically, we interact with people.
Yeah.
Doesn't.
But I think as well, like as adults, we can feel like once we're out of childhood, then we should just know. Yeah. Like we should just be these adults.
Yeah. And
that's like also not how it works. Like as adults, I think sometimes we do need help with maybe like learning some of those things we weren't showed or modeled in childhood of like how to regulate your emotions, how to navigate like that impulsive.
And how not to just go straight to shame, because a lot of us like, want
self-condemnation.
Like want to be vulnerable enough and to go like, oh, this is like, I do have rage, or I do want to act out in this way or another, or I want to experience love by having a million partners or whatever, right? And it's like, will the person you're engaging with be loving enough to you to actually like look inside themselves, a commonality, and confess like, this is how this shows up for my life, and this is what's been most loving to myself, to like accept those things and seek to change those things, not in a like hard and fast like shame approach, to go like, right, you want something different, or these are the mistakes, not the shaming like, oh, these are all the mistakes I made in my life. Can't believe I let this happen, and
totally
terrible. But to go like, no, it like I learned from that. It was painful, and I hope that you don't have to like learn from my mistakes. And that we're all going to be okay because of it. Right?
And also just not feeling any shame or guilt around being able to say like I need help.
Totally.
But I think that's where it's tricky in love, because like that's where I think you just need a lot of like wisdom in who you choose to try and seek that help from. Because like I know, for instance, like in a marriage, like Grant and I, like he couldn't really help me with much of my family stuff. You know, that was like I needed to go see a therapist for that.
Even his like, how do you get help, or how do you help somebody when you have no frame of reference?
Totally.
The language even they're speaking. You're like, oh, well, I do this in my family. Like, you should be able to figure this out. And you're like, no, I'm going to trust that that's not the case.
Yeah, but then he loved me as a person. So he was like there to just sort of listen to my processing of all that the help that I was getting from an outside source. And then I would obviously share that with him, being the closest person to me, like in my life. But I think that's tricky when one person is becoming the reference for everything that you need. Like, if you need help, it's firstly so admirable to be like, I need help. But then figuring out like who can give you that help is, I think, also part of love. Because like, I don't know, I think that is where maybe this idea of God coming in and being like no human is gonna save you or be your savior or be able to be every single thing that you need. And that often ends up just washing people out, and like that's where they kind of burn out and are like, I can't do this. I can't be your...
It's funny that you say that, because this week, just to be plain, like I struggled so much with the idea of like, is God real? Because I'm like, it's just all a construct because I need help, and because I can't I'm like, why am I talking to somebody other than myself in these moments? Like, it should be enough. Like this, I don't know. Like, it's just that those have been the real moments for me. And then I'm like, no, like I need help. I actually, right in these moments, like there's too big, like, thoughts of, not great thoughts coming in again. And I'm like, if I don't have that kind of like external touchstone or whatever, that is not a person. Right now, it's been complicated. Right. So I'm like, no, I think that I need help, and having God be something that I can like call out to kind of go steady me. Like, I can't do this totally alone. And I think that's been interesting to engage with people who are very self-sufficient and who in theory say that they can. But yet I do see, like, we all have bypassing or addiction or like some sort of like
crutch or
right. And it's like, whether that's God or not, or these just, again, good things to like wrestle through. Because it's again hard to admit that like you need help. But again, in those like really dark moments, someone to pull you out of that. And I like, again, we don't want to shy away from like like the suicidal thoughts. I mean, we're talking about that again this morning. Sometimes life will bring you to those things and we don't really know how to engage with that. And I think finding a way to ask for help, even if it's just from God, or to confess that too, and to not have somebody. That's another thing we're talking about. Is love look like somebody just coming in and fixing it for you? Or are they going to let you journey in that? Right?
And hold you kind of as you.
Want to go. Like I accept that. Oh maybe these are some scary thoughts, or you're acting out in this way or that way that I perceive just causes you more pain. But maybe that's just your way forward.
I think for me, like I think I said in the last episode, like love is the most representative thing to me, like of God. But I think like that thing outside ourselves of like, I know I need help at times, but like I think for me, God is like that understanding that I am fully loved, like no matter where I'm at or what I'm doing, and that love can kind of like steady me even when life is like shit.
Ground you. Totally.
Right. Ground, and that peace is no longer just, I think that like trying to achieve this kind of like feeling or state of being. In a way it is, because I think we're so experiential and like we do need that physical sense of like calm, but the peace that I know that I'm like fully loved no matter what. And I don't know, I still don't really know if I can like give God a name, or I don't know, God suffices for me these days, just God.
It's funny because like lately I'm like creator, like universe, like what is that? And it's like
mother. Mother God. But honestly, I am finding I find that can sometimes be helpful when especially when you're a person who maybe didn't have a mothering experience.
Which is funny because like for me, the lack of the father, so therefore God slots into that. And having like a complicated relationship with a mother, then I don't even want to associate with anything that's female in some ways. Like I find most of my friendships are with women, but that's a really tricky one. But again, like, I mean, we were talking about the shack in some conversation recently. And it's funny because like in that movie, especially, I mean, obviously in the book, but like how God is portrayed to one of the characters is like a Black woman, right? That's old, of like a certain age or whatever. Older, so I shouldn't say ageism here either. But like how beautiful that the idea that God shows up for us in a way that feels safe, and that we're accepted and nurtured, and like
but
that
nurture,
me like a
nurture can be
nurture.
I was just gonna say nurture can be very complicated when you've maybe not experienced it, and then
or over nurtured. And like what is love? Like how, what does love feel like?
Yes.
I'm sure what well, in some ways what was demonstrated to me for love was a lot of like sacrifice and a lot of like doing, and oh my goodness, like do I ever appreciate those things? But it was almost to the detriment of those people, and then I was indebted to said person, right? And then, or the control of like, well, Christa, you have to show up in these specific ways for me, and if you don't, well, then that's unloving. And I'm like, crap. So just
very conditional kind of.
Totally, right? And just really confusing.
Yes.
When you know that love is supposed to be a different way, and it keeps getting demonstrated in the opposite.
Yeah.
Just like, I think sometimes our issue with church, right?
Yeah.
That as we kind of think about re-engaging or not, or we are kind of engaging at the moment-ish. I know having a conversation with someone else this week going like, oh, why does the church feel so unloving? Like, why can't we just show up and accept each other and accept, the perfect qualities of God and let God be God and us be us?
Yeah.
You know? And why?
I think the draw of it is that it does feel loving on the surface.
Yeah.
You know?
And you kind of get like, tricked in a little bit.
Well, yeah. Like I've heard a lot of these, the whole like love bombing.
Yep.
Instance, which is true in a way. Like you go to church and
it's
easy to love in that context.
Totally.
When you're just in a setting with lots of people and someone new comes in, and it's easy to show them a smile and a welcoming hug. And but it's like it's in the nitty gritty of people's everyday lives that they actually need that kind of love, where it's like,
it's funny that you say that, because as part of like abusive tendencies, like love bombing is a way to get people kind of close to you. And then out from that comes the devaluation. And then you start to question again your value. And you don't have value unless you're attached to this abusive system or person or whatever. And walking away from that is so difficult. And again, the cognitive dissonance and all of that stuff, right? And you're like, oh, why is the same kind of dynamic happening in the church, right? And then when you leave, we were talking about, crap, they preached love and acceptance, but actually I have no value or...
it was just lip service.
Like true love would say people are calling me when I don't show up, and not to go, why aren't you here? But like, hey, can I come for a walk? Like, meet me where I'm at.
You know? How are you today? How are you feeling? What does our day involve?
Outside of the context of like a system program, whatever, right?
Or how you're contributing to that or not.
And not like I hope you're doing well out there.
It's
like, well, thanks.
Cute.
Praying for you. Like, okay, where's the like, surfacey.
It can be. And that's, I have always admired people who kind of were like, I think, you do. I hear a lot about from other friends and Christians as well. Like people have always been impacted when I hear language like that person like genuinely cared. And you're like, okay, because we've all got these experiences of like the fake care or like the surface care or like, theoretically we care about you, but genuinely like like
means that there is an authenticity in relationship there where they like something got peeled back and you saw them, they saw you for like how truly things are.
Totally. I think the flip side of that is the community, like communal. Are you timing?
We're all running.
The communal side of it is that like, I think that's what we were talking a little bit about, how in church systems as well, it's not just like the people on the platform, but also us in the congregation and how we, and knowing that, like someone up there maybe can't care in that way for like 500 people.
No.
There's like the onus on you. I remember we were taught a lot about this kind of like in our church in Australia was like, you're responsible for your like relationships and your spirit and your, but the other side of that can be is that is also used as an excuse to like not engage with people and just like they need to figure out who their friends are and get that themselves from wherever.
I
don't know, that's a bit of a tangent, but I can't remember where I was going with that.
Well, I don't know why that's making me think of like, again, if love is at the forefront of what we say church or these communities are, and yet when a pastor or church leader engages in some way of leadership, and then the fear around, oh gosh, like I have to be perfect or have all the answers, and there isn't the acceptance for their humanity, you know? And there is such a like, oh no, if I let my guard down for a second, like, oh my goodness, it was like the carnality. And I think every church leader would agree that people are friggin' vicious. Yeah. Like so vicious. And again, that's a byproduct of this thing that we're creating. So why is this the issue? Like there's an issue here. If you don't feel safe in the communities that you're leading or this thing that we're all participating in, like why are we participating? And like, I mean, of course.
Or if you just have to put on a mask to be
totally
included.
Survive the thing. Like, that's a problem. And I want to unequivocally, like, I just want to take a stand and say, like, that is a problem. Because I lament for the people that I still am engaging with and go, like, I'm so sorry that you don't feel fully loved and accepted in these communities that proclaim in the name of Jesus to be so loving. Right? That sucks.
And that's where it can often start with just showing a genuine interest. And but that was often not the experience of a lot of people, and that is something that I lament as well, and that makes me just question, like, well, you know, is this system even working? You know, like, and I think, I mean, any sort of healthy organization would be hopefully trying to ask those questions all the time and and look at systems and what can we change here and do better? And like, I don't know. It's tricky.
And we certainly, again, don't have the answers, but want to ask the questions and change where we can. And again, like you say, throw stones at our own glass houses. I know we talked a little bit as we wrap up right now, but about what's to come. And I think so next week will be our final episode talking about what season 2 looks like. But we started this whole process thinking about confession and wanting to just be honest with ourselves, about ourselves, as you say. And so next week, we want to exercise that a bit and kind of, I mean, I'm happy to confess, like, I mean, it's probably more exciting. Some of the things that, I mean, exciting, I say that quote unquote or whatever, it just was cringy, let's go with. Some of the things that I've chosen to engage with and just sort of like, they're like those bigger sins, right? That, you know, in the church, we kind of like don't know what to do with that stuff. And yet I find that as I confess those things, people also confess to me, and there's a great freedom that happens. And again, it allows me to just, again, like look at myself and be okay with myself and to go, okay, these are real, like either coping mechanisms or survival techniques to sort of like get through. And do I just want to survive, or do I want to believe that Jesus offered me something that is more than just like survival? Maybe there's more life or something. I don't know. But I'm not there yet to kind of go, I know what Jesus meant when he kind of goes like, go and sin no more. And the bread of life. Is that what he said?
Way, the truth, and life. He said, I'm the bread of life.
And like where I
reportedly.
And like, I mean, I love that idea that we can be fully whole in him and that, you know, he can help us with our emptiness. And yet I remember saying, like, I get to the point where I'm so lonely, I'm holding my own hand. Because it's just hard. I remember you saying 4 kids and just be like, oh, I'm just so tired. Right. And so then how do I look to Jesus and go, well, you're not holding my hand here at night, but is there a way that he's enough, or is there legitimate need in my life?
Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward to that. That'll be good.
We'll see.
If I had any, I was just thinking, this thought came back to me in final thoughts on love, but I was just thinking before that, as we were chatting, like, I think one of the beautiful aspects of marriage, like when it's, I guess, mutual and, you know, both parties are like wanting to engage in it. I think the cool thing about it is that like when you do make those initial vows, you don't in a way know what love is.
No.
And so for me and myself personally, like my marriage has been a huge gauge as well of like learning what love is. It's taught me a lot about that, but it's something that has required like, constant learning and adapting and changing and
gotta tweak it here and do things a bit different here. Change.
Yeah. It's
right?
like it's just so like a learning thing. But we've both kind of had to like commit to that learning and adapting and like figuring out what love is. So like,
when I see like you guys, I want to say like you're both committed to the mutual flourishing, you know?
Yeah.
That is such a beautiful thing to accept somebody and go like, I want you to realize you're like, and not full potential in that like grandiosity. I just mean like,
well, my ambitions for you, but like
totally
what is
organically, like what do you really want for yourself?
Yeah.
Okay, let me be curious with you in that and let's see how we can make that a reality.
Yeah. But I think it's a journey and no one really has it perfect or like the answers just go.
I see that like I'm like, you guys have a good marriage, but it's hardly perfect.
Hardly perfect. But I think that acceptance, what we were chatting about, like that we sometimes feel missing from church, like that does, because we've talked a bit about it, but like what does it feel to be loved and what isn't, like and that just baseline like acceptance and that your opinions and desires are just as valid as mine and your experience, even though we maybe disagree on things. Like you're accepted as you are, and and then every other decision kind of sort of has to flow out of that, like mutual respect and acceptance of one another.
I love that.
Even when we change.
And it is not control. It is not this rigid kind of
or manipulation or trying to change the other person.
It's like, well, no, what's best for you, Micah? Tell me what's best for you, and then I'll try and make that happen. The same for me. Cute. Thank you guys for being here again. Like, thank you. I really do. I think we both are just like super appreciative that there are people on the other side listening. And we see you, and again, like ask questions if you want us to cover a certain topic. And
that'd be cool.
That'd be awesome.
Awesome.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Bye.